Now, a video clip featuring South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has resurfaced online, and here he explains, and it's crystal clear, the policy they have of confiscating land without compensation.
The question of land, the land of our forefathers and our foremothers must return to our people without any fail and without any payment of compensation. And it must happen now.
Kosha, that certainly explains why Donald Trump has decided to pull funding from South Africa. But what is the rest of the international community doing, including Australia? Because we're talking about farms being confiscated from white farmers, and as you heard there, no compensation.
Absolutely. I think this is an issue that angers certain parts, certainly of the right side of politics, who have been crying for a while about the outrage machine seems to always be selected and trained on people who are disadvantaged, who have more melanin in their skin. And when somebody has less melanin, like the white farmers of South Africa, it just feels like the response has been inadequate, especially from Christian countries that have very generous refugee and asylum policies, like Australia, like America. Can they do more? Should they be doing more to take them in, as well as punching back the way Trump is with sanctions, cutting off aid, et cetera? So this president, some of his speeches are really, really quite jarring.
Absolutely.
And his problem is that the richest man in the world and very famous person happens to be Elon Musk, who's really raising the attention on this issue, and we're going to see more of this, I think.
Well, I just can't understand why there's not just political pressure being put on South Africa. We saw during the apartheid era, sporting teams refused to travel there, all sorts of international sanctions and all sorts of measures that can be taken to bring the country into line and say you can't institute racist policies. The rest of the world's not going to be okay with that. But when it's the other way, when it's whites being discriminated against, those sorts of measures are not at all employed, other than by Donald Trump.
That seems to be the only inference that many people are drawing, like what is different, because you're right, South Africa has been on the receiving end of huge sanctions from around the world when it was reversed.
Absolutely. Now, let's have a look at more craziness from the UK. This story is causing shockwaves. It shows just how far the UK has fallen in terms of valuing free speech. In January this year, 6 British police officers turned up to arrest a couple, mum and dad, who had criticised the policies of their daughter's school in emails and a WhatsApp chat group with other parents. So you can see that you can't get that many cops to show up if your house has been broken into in the UK, but they'll come for these supposed hate crimes. Now, the couple were arrested in front of their crying child, detained for 8 hours, and after a 5-week investigation, the case was closed, no charges. And what's incredible here, Kosha, is we still don't know, and the parents say they don't know, what they said that warranted this police attention. So they're not even told this is what you said that crossed a line or caused an offence or caused a complaint. I mean, this is not a first world country that values free speech.
It's almost unrecognizable, and it's so sad because that value comes out of there from the Magna Carta and everything else. So much of all of these institutions can be sourced back to England, and that's why I think it burns and hurts people so much more. Again, that J.D. Vance speech is aging very well, both the speech as well as when Keir Starmer was in the White House. They sort of had a little back and forth, and Keir Starmer said he's very proud of the heritage of the UK with free speech.
I remember that.
This does not shine that in a good light. It's also very Orwellian, sort of driving a wedge between parents and children, sort of, and the state sort of coming into the right of a parent and parental rights, pushing back against a school and how their kids are being educated. So there's that layer on top of the free speech layer. And I hope this story doesn't die and we get some pressure put on.
Yeah, I hope there's at least some clarity around why these parents were targeted. And staying in the UK, a new set of sentencing guidelines for UK judges is coming to effect, and it encourages judges to be more lenient towards people from an ethnic or faith minority. Pretty much everybody gets a discount except for, you guessed it, white men. Even Keir Starmer is against this lunacy.
I'm disappointed in this response, and the Lord Chancellor is obviously continuing to engage on this, and we're considering our response. And, you know, all options are on the table, but I am disappointed at this outcome.
The end result of this is if you're a white man, particularly a straight white Christian man, then you're going to receive a harsher sentence than if you're not. And it's not just the two-tier justice system that we've seen in effect. This is now a sentencing recommendation.
And that creep continues where it's official. You sort of see also the war between the judicial branch, we're seeing that a lot in the US, and the legislative branch, where even Keir Starmer is objecting to it, and yet you see the other side where the judicial branch wields a lot of power and they can do things like this to make life very difficult, even if it maybe is not constitutional, and maybe some challenges will be brought. I hope that they are with that. And it's just more coming from the UK. It's really, when you piece all of that together with the earlier stories that you've covered, it feels, again, Orwellian.
Oh, we've got more. Another example of the two-tier justice system in the UK, a pro-Palestinian activist who spat in the faces of 2 police officers has walked free after she claimed it was an accident and that she was in fact aiming at the Israelis, the counter-protesters, but missed. Kosha, this is incredible. We saw people locked up for being at anti-immigration protests. We saw people receive jail sentences who didn't actually commit acts of violence themselves, but they were at violent protests. And then you see this, someone walking free after spitting in the face of police officers.
She sounds very charming.
Yeah. And
it's again that two-tiered thing, whether it's official or unofficial, everybody understands it. And you can look at a spectrum where I just think of San Francisco, where they've had a version of this after Black Lives Matter. They decriminalize things, especially for certain groups of people. Everyone can see the outcome of what that's done to a once great and iconic city. So much so that even the very progressive left wing of politics has tried to recall people, and they're punching back a little bit. And then on the other end, you have President Bukele in El Salvador, who has very strict way of going after and prosecuting criminal behavior. This obviously isn't in that league, but the point is you can see what happens when you're soft on crime and then selectively soft on crime for certain groups. That is a recipe for very bad social implications. And then on the other side, you have somebody who's really, really strict, and it can just completely improve the way of life over there, and we'll see.
Absolutely. And when you've got this two-tier justice system, we've seen it in the US, you could argue it exists in Australia as well. It undermines trust in the system, and in the US, certainly trust in those institutions plummeted, and it's part of the reason why Donald Trump was elected. He's been elected to remedy that. Kosha Gada, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Pleasure.